What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Dylan Grubb here with Extreme.Outdoorsmen. If you guys are new here to the channel, make sure to go hit that subscribe button and also go over here in the corner and give me a thumbs up on this video. I would really appreciate it. I hope everyone is staying safe in this weird time in the United States. It's pretty weird. We're having a lockdown, a 3-week lockdown here in Michigan, so that means I can't even go out on the lake. So I'm going to be filming a bunch of videos talking about specific lures and just trying to get out content for you guys. So hopefully you guys are watching the videos and I really appreciate it. But make sure to check out some of my recent videos. I'm going to leave them up here in the corner for you guys to click. But I landed a big fish like last week. I think it was like 5.5 pounds on one of my new rods. But in today's video, I'm going to be having my dad talk about his 5 favorite lures to throw in the winter or springtime. They're great lures to throw here in Michigan or pretty much all around the United States. So stay tuned and stick around for content like this. Hopefully you guys learned some information today.
Hey, how's it going guys? This is Dean Grubb, Dylan's dad. He's the Extreme Outdoorsman. He wanted me to post a little video about my 5 best baits. I've been fishing for 30 something years. I won a lot of bass tournaments. You don't have to be a pro to have the right baits. What I like starting out at the beginning of the year with, number 1 is a jerkbait. In this cold weather, you get reaction out of fish that you would probably not have with anything else. And this is one that's really good. I haven't used this bait for a long time, but Livingston has got a great bait that's really good. The Rattling Rogue is what I first started out with years ago because that's pretty much all we had. That's a Rattling Rogue. This is kind of a shallow diver, and then you get one with a bill that dives a little deeper. I usually throw the one with a little bit deeper bill. You can get down to that 5 to 8 foot depth. And on the jerk baits, you're going to want to make a long cast in areas that are like 5 to 10 feet deep or shallower. Throw it out, reel it down to the depth, jerk it, and make long pauses. I've gone all the way up to like, seems like 5 seconds seems like forever, but I've gone up to like 15, 20, 30 seconds when it's cold like this. And then just give it a couple twitches. What they mean by a jerk is like jerking it hard, and a twitch is just using your end of your rod tip and just twitching that bait so it just rocks in the water. And I'm telling you, you'll get some big hits, and you'll get, like just for instance, we were out yesterday. We caught 14 bass, 12 on a jerk bait. So that goes to tell you right there, that jerk bait. And right now the water temp's only 40 degrees on the lakes up here in Michigan. And the jerk bait was definitely the bait to throw yesterday, and it's just a great bait to throw this time of year. If you're going to catch fish, you got to work different depths. Even when the water's above 60 degrees, I'll throw it, but primarily, like right now, 40 degrees to 60 degree weather or water temp is the time to use a jerk bait. And I use like 10 pound, 12 pound tests, 14. The heavier your line, I mean, I know you've seen a bunch of videos, but the heavier line keeps that bait up higher. So if you're in let's say 3 to 5 foot of water, use heavier line on your jerk bait. It won't dive as deep. And then in turn, when you're in deeper water, 8 to 12 foot of water or 6 to 12 foot of water, use that 10 pound, it'll go down deeper. So any which way, that's probably my number 1 bait this time of year is a jerk bait, because you're going to get reaction strikes and clear water. You know, use more of a natural colors, you know, shad colors, and then if it's more stained, then you're going to go to colors that are more brighter, like chartreuses, white, stuff like that. But definitely these white pearl jerk baits. Lucky Craft is one of my number 1 baits. They're high end, they're like 16, 17 bucks a bait. But I found through the years, it's better buying what works and then spending $100 on a bunch of baits. These rogues work, but trying out all these other baits. Yeah, they all catch fish, but this Livingston and Lucky Craft, and like Dylan said in some of his videos, I'm not getting sponsored by any of them, but these are the baits that work. So then number 2, I'd have to say, would be a Shad Wrap made by Rapala. The number 5, I think these are number 7s. They're a little bit bigger. They go down a little bit deeper. These are Shad Wraps. Would have to say that's my number 2 bait, and they work. I use the one I like a lot. It's called the Shad Color. It's a number 5, and then to get down, I don't know, 4 to 7 foot of water, depending on how fast you reel, depending on how much your weight of your line is. Obviously, the heavier line, the shallower it's going to run. The lighter the line, the deeper it's going to run. And you're always going to want to make contact with the bottom. If you make contact with the bottom with this, you go ahead and just stop reeling, because they float up. And then as soon as you think that it's floated up, give it a couple seconds and jerk your rod really hard like that, and it'll get the weeds off, and start reeling it super slow again, and that's when you'll get a strike generally. But these Shad Wraps this time of year, these balsa baits made by Rapala, they definitely catch fish up here in Michigan anyhow. So definitely throw Shad Wraps. And my other crankbait that I love a lot, I've been using forever, is these wiggle warts. They got a little rattle on them here. It's kind of a subtle rattle, but these wiggle warts will catch you some major fish. And the same idea, reel it down to the depth, and you're going to want to reel as slow as you can reel, just enough to where you're feeling that rod making a vibration like this. And what you're also going to want to do is contact the bottom. As soon as it contacts the bottom, stop reeling. It'll float up. Same thing with the Shad Wrap. Jerk your rod a couple times really hard and start reeling. And you'll know if that weed's on there, if it's not. If you got a nice wiggle like that on your rod, the weed's off. So you definitely want to throw wiggle warts. I mean, a lot of guys like rattle traps. I don't use them that much. Not saying they don't catch them, but I have more confidence with these other baits than I do with a rattle trap. I watch videos of Van Dam and several other pros saying rattle trap's the best one to use. Well, it might be in their case, but in my case, and I've done really well through the years in tournaments, these crankbaits, and I throw crankbaits all the time. I mean, I've been in summertime and I've thrown crankbaits, and my buddies are like, "Why are you throwing a crankbait?" I said, "Yeah, you'll see." And I throw deep diving crankbaits. I'm nuts about throwing crankbaits. That and jigs is like 2 of my best baits. I just love throwing crankbaits. But so like I said, the lighter your line, the deeper your crankbait's gonna go. The heavier your line, the higher it's gonna go in the water column. So that's 2 different baits. And another great bait this time of year that I like to throw, and some guys will say throw small. I go big all the time. So big white willow leaf blades. Sometimes I'll just use 1 blade, take this one right off. I'll get a pair of pliers and just cut that right off and have 1 blade. It depends on how the fish are biting. And I got probably 200 spinnerbaits. So you don't necessarily always got to have a plastic on the back. Try it both ways. Try it without a plastic, and then put a plastic swim bait on there. Whatever the fish want. They'll tell you what they want. Slow rolling it, or reeling a little bit quicker. But chartreuse and white, but white is about the best way to go. I've caught a lot of big bass on local lakes. And one of my best baits on Lake St. Clair, I've never won a tournament on St. Clair, but I come real close. I got a second out there about 20 years ago, and my first fish of the day was on a spinnerbait. It weighed 685, and I thought I had the biggest bass, but Art Ferguson won that tournament. He's a pro, and he had one like with 7 pounds or something. It was crazy, but I had like 24 pounds and something that day, and he came in with 29 pounds. So any which way, spinner baits work great on St. Clair, and the one I use is pulsator, chartreuse and white blades, and they're both willow leaf blades. And I got a sticker that I put on them. It looked like gills that I would put on the blades, and I really believe I got a few more extra strikes. But try chartreuse and white pulsator spinnerbait on St. Clair, Lake St. Clair in Michigan. Because when a big smallie hits it, it's like a Mack truck hit it. It just stops in its tracks. And you get big fish on spinnerbaits out in St. Clair, anywhere right this time of year. These spinnerbaits work well. I don't know what it is. They're chewing like crazy, getting ready to spawn. But white spinnerbaits, a lot of times I'll throw them out, let it go to the bottom, jerk it off the bottom, and start reeling in slow. Almost slow rolling this time of year. You know, that's what I like to do. I'm not saying this is the way you gotta do it. Just like guys say, this is their best bait, is rattle traps. It doesn't specifically got to be this rattle trap either. There's red eye shad, there's tons of different kinds of rattle traps. But I don't throw them as much because I've had most success on these other baits. And the next bait, it's a bladed jig, chatterbait. Throw it out, and you can do a lot of different things with a chatterbait. You can just throw it out and work it like a jig and keep buzzing it off the bottom. And you know, go back in the bays on the northeast ends of the lake. They say warm up the quickest. That doesn't mean always focus on those areas. You can go to the south end of lakes, but work points. Points is where the fish stack up. And I found a lot of fish that are not on the northeast end of the lakes. They say go to those areas because they warm up the quickest, which is true, they do. You go on the northeast end of the lake, just for instance, yesterday we had 43 degrees. We go on the south end of the lake, 40 degrees. A few different degrees sometimes matters, sometimes it don't. You just gotta check it out. But these chatterbaits, you can throw them out and just reel them in. You can throw them out and reel them in fast and jig it while you're doing it. Or you can just throw it out and throw it like a jig, just pop it off the bottom and go slow with it. But a lot of times I'll throw it out, let it go to the bottom, pull it in like that, like a jig a couple times, and then start reeling it in slow. And just, you know, change up the speeds of the bait to see what way the fish are. If you're not getting them on this, go to the black and blue. Change up colors, because a lot of guys that go out and fish, they just stick with one bait saying, well, that's what I caught them on, you know, in the years past. If I don't catch them on black and blue, they're not biting. Well, that's not true. I believe in colors. Some guys say it don't matter, but I believe it matters. And here's another chatterbait. This one's exceptionally well on St. Clair with smallmouth. It's called California Craw. And I'll put a little swim bait behind it, or in this case, we got a rage bug on that one. And this one right here, we got a havoc on the back. And there's another havoc on the back. And then the next lure I like to use a lot is a jig. And I'm big into jig fishing. That's why I won most of my tournaments. Jigs or tube jigs. But this one's a jig. This is a Davy Height jig. And I do really well on this. This is what I caught my biggest bass on yesterday. In like 10 to 15 foot of water. I threw it out. I had a different trailer on than this. I forget what it's called, made by Zoom. It's something new they just came out with like a year ago. I think it was last year. It's kind of like a super hog, the bait, but I can't remember the name of it. But it was a bigger plastic on the back, and I caught one that was 3.6 yesterday on this. I only caught one on it, but it was a big fish. And the fish ain't really turning up right now anyhow, but we did catch 14 fish yesterday. But those are some of the baits. Number 1 is a jerkbait. Number 2, I'd have to say, is a crankbait. And number 3, I'd have to say, I got a couple different crankbaits I like. Shad Rap, Wiggle Wart. Shad Rap, Wiggle Wart. Believe me, they catch fish. And I will throw this once in a while, rattle trap, and I do catch some fish, but I'm more into crankbaits where they get down. And I know you've seen a lot of videos, rattle traps, they say just reel them as fast as you can. But I mean, I'm just saying, for me, jerkbait is number 1. Number 2 would probably be the crankbait. Number 3 would be the spinnerbait. Number 4 would be the chatterbait. And number 5, which I don't have here right now, would be a swim bait with a jig head on this. You just go ahead and put your, I wish I had one right here. Oh, here's something like one. All you'd have to do right here, this is pretty much what it, just put it on like that. There it is right there. Just throw that out, let it go to the bottom, and reel it in as slow as possible so you're getting it as close to the bottom all the time. These baits really catch some big fish. So that's my number 5 as a swim bait. So that's me. My take on the best 5 baits: jerk bait, crank bait, spinner bait, chatter bait, jig. I guess there's one more, 6, swim bait. So you stick with those, I think you do really well. I mean, that's what I like to use, and I usually do pretty decent out fishing. And the thing is, when you guys are fishing, slow down this time of year. I mean, I see guys, we're out fishing yesterday, there was guys like on their trolling motor full tilt. That's their way to fish, but I know what works. Me and my buddy, long time ago, learned this. Slower you go, you think you're going slow, we'll go slower than that, and you'll catch fish, especially this time of year. So remind yourself, even in bass tournaments, fish slow, and then fish slower and slower, especially on real pressure lakes. You want to fish slow. I mean, go to your certain spots that you know are fish hanging, but fish slow, and you'll do better, and you'll catch more, and you'll win some bass tournaments, I guarantee you. Going slow. I learned that a long time ago, because me and my buddy used to fish fast, and we'd always be like, why are those guys always beating us? Then we finally realized, fish super slow, and when you think you're going slow, go slower than that. Just creep and make several casts, fan casts, and use different baits, the 5 I just showed you. I mean, more it gets into the spring and summer, yeah, obviously you got all these different other baits, drop shot, Ned rigs, Nico rigs, all these different things, they all catch fish. But these are my top 5 for early spring. So, I mean, that's my opinion. And I think if you stick to that, I think you'll catch some fish. Over and out.
Guys, that is going to end today's tutorial on the top 5 best baits to throw in the winter or springtime. Hopefully you guys learned some tips and tricks on what lures and what colors to throw. And make sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and also drop a comment below what you guys thought of this video, if you think I should do more videos like this, or if you guys just like my fishing videos. So make sure to stick around for more videos like this, and thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot.